WVU has found their new wide receivers coach for the upcoming 2022 season. Let's go. What's going on, Mountaineer Nation? Jordan Cruz back here with the Country Roads webcast. Before I get into this video, I just wanted to give you guys a quick reminder. If you could please just do us a favor here with the Country Roads webcast, go ahead and hit that subscribe button. It helps us, it helps you, it helps the channel grow, and we want to be able to reach all of Mountaineer Nation. Plus, you'll know right away whenever we put up West Virginia football content, and you can check it out faster. That being said, let's get into it. And West Virginia has filled that staff vacancy that we've been talking about. They have hired a wide receivers coach, and it's a name I think a lot of people weren't expecting. You saw a lot of lists. I gave you a couple names in my video when it was announced that Jared Parker was leaving of who could fill that vacancy as wide receivers coach. But it turns out I think it's someone that no one really expected. Very young, up-and-coming coach, and the Mountaineers have hired him, and that is Tony Washington, who most recently has served as the wide receivers coach at Coastal Carolina for the past 2 seasons. Tony Washington's a relatively new football coach. He was actually still playing in the NFL as recently as 2017. So a wide receiver with a brief NFL playing career from 2014 to 2017 decides to make the jump into coaching in 2018, joins the staff at Eastern Carolina as an offensive quality control assistant, working with the wide receivers. There for a year, moves on in 2019, grad assistant again, this time at Louisville, before ultimately joining Jamie Chadwell's staff at Coastal Carolina in 2020 as the full-time wide receivers coach. So he's only been a full-time assistant working for the past 2 seasons, but in those 2 seasons he has had good success. Coastal Carolina has been a very successful team, very successful offense under Jamie Chadwell these past 2 seasons. As a matter of fact, in 2020, the first year that Tony Washington took over as the team's wide receivers coach, Coastal Carolina went 11-1 that year. Best season in school history by far. One of the better offenses in college football that year, and I think reached all the way up to nearly top 10 in the nation that year. And in that season, under his guidance, a lot of the Coastal Carolina receivers took a big jump, especially the junior receiver Javon High. He ended up as a first-team all-conference player, led the team in yards, touchdowns, and receptions, and he became just the 12th player in their program's history to have 1,000-yard receiving, and only the 6th ever to have over 100 receptions in a season. So still young as a coach, but in his brief time in his 2 seasons at Coastal Carolina, he has seen success, and some of the receivers that he has guided have had great seasons. So that's a plus. And getting a young coach is always a plus too, I think. Hopefully he can recruit well. I know West Virginia has been recruiting the Carolinas heavily, especially in this upcoming class. It looks like I think they have 2 commits from South Carolina already, if not 3, in the 2023 class. So maybe there's something to this, considering he was at Coastal Carolina. I don't know if he's going to recruit Florida. I'm interested to see what happens and who is assigned to recruit Florida, because that's going to be big for West Virginia and what they're going to do there with Travis Trickett leaving, or if they just try and go another route, maybe get more into the Carolinas, more into Ohio. I don't know. We'll see how that plays out, but I don't know what Tony Washington's connection is to either Graham Harrell or Neil Brown. I haven't been able to find that yet. I'm sure that there is some type of connection, though, I would think, or at least to someone on the staff, rather, if it's not one of those 2 that kind of introduced them to one another. And Neil Brown liked him and decided to go on with the hire or what have you. But I'm going to be interested to see when that comes out. I'm sure that the university hasn't officially announced this yet. It's just being reported all over the place. I'm sure once the university's official announcement comes out, we'll get statements from Tony Washington and statements from Neil Brown as well. So here on the Country Roads webcast, we can bring you an update on that as well once that happens, because I'm sure Neil Brown will detail the staff assignments as far as who's going to be tight ends coach, which I've said I think it's going to be Sean Reagan. That's what I've been hearing, and the staff will now be pretty much complete and ready to head into the spring. So we'll probably get a staff assignment of exactly what everyone's title is going to be. I'm sure that will come soon. As far as my personal thoughts and my opinion on the hire, I think all in all it's good. After doing my research, I hadn't heard of Tony Washington personally. I knew Coastal Carolina had had success, so I'm like, that can't be a bad move. And maybe he came suggested from Jamie Chadwell. Neil Brown was in the same conference as Coastal Carolina in the Sun Belt when he was at Troy, so maybe he has a relationship with Jamie Chadwell or some members of the staff, or maybe he knew Tony Washington previously. Like I said, not sure about that yet. But looking at Tony Washington, I think in his couple years that he's been there at Coastal Carolina, they've had success on offense. Their wide receivers have been productive, And so I think that's a good sign. I don't know what he's done in recruiting exactly. Haven't really looked at that. I think that's the big thing for me, is how is he going to do in recruiting. That remains to be seen. So, I like the hire, but I'm kind of waiting to see about it, see how it plays out. This will be the third wide receiver coach in 4 seasons for Neil Brown since he took over West Virginia. So not a lot of stability at that position, but hopefully he meshes well with the pieces West Virginia has coming in and the pieces they already have in the veterans, Sam James, Bryce Ford-Wheaton, etc., etc. And we'll see how that plays out for this upcoming season. But I do like the potential, I think, of Tony Washington. And prior to his coaching career and prior to his NFL career, he was a very productive wide receiver in college, playing for the Mountaineers. No, not West Virginia, but Appalachian State. And he actually still ranks in the record books top 10 in receiving yards and top 10 in receptions for a career, I do believe. So he was very productive, so that's a good sign that he knows how to play the position. And to be honest with you, the reason I'm kind of optimistic about this hire is my favorite, I told you, in the Jared Parker's leaving video where I suggested some candidates, was Tyron Carrier. And to me, looking at Tony Washington's resume, it's very similar to Tyron Carrier when he came to West Virginia. Tyron Carrier was a star wide receiver in college at Houston, went to the NFL for a little bit, then decided to get into coaching, was still young at the position when he came to West Virginia. He's a lot more experienced now, more veteran guy, but at that time his resume was not all that different from Tony Washington's, and he's highly regarded now. A lot of West Virginia fans wanted him, and I think getting Tony Washington is almost like getting the, I don't want to say carbon copy of Tyron Carrier, but resume looking. That's kind of how it is. Star receiver in college, Appalachian State for Tony Washington, goes to the NFL for a few years, gives that a shot, gets into coaching, quickly climbs the ladder, only spending 2 years as a grad assistant and offensive analyst, always working with the wide receivers all along though, so knowing what he wanted to do, specializing in wide receivers where he was a good wide receiver himself, and then now 2 years as a full-time assistant, and we've seen the success he's had with a good team in Coastal Carolina. So I think picking him up is a good move. You get a young coach, up and coming, and you can see how that pans out for you. All in all, I think this is a surprising hire, but I'm optimistic about it, and I think it could turn out to be a good one. But what do you think? Let me know in the comments. Give me your thoughts on the hiring of Tony Washington as West Virginia football's new wide receivers coach. Do you like it? Do you hate it? Would you rather have seen somebody else? Either way, however you're feeling, let us know in the comments. And one more time, do us a favor here at the Country Roads Webcast. Hit that subscribe button. That way you'll know right away when we post this WVU football content. And we'll have more coming back at you before too long. That being said, as always, this has been the Country Roads Webcast. I'm Jordan Cruz. Until next time, let's go Mountaineers.
I don't want to see your face up close. I just want to get